Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be drawing Chloe and Max from Life is Strange for Cringetober. Let's get started. So you can see here I started out by taking a photo from a pose reference book I have. I'll put a link for that in the description, and just kind of sketching out the poses in general. I actually, in a separate document, I kind of redlined these poses first just to make them a little more comprehensible. And then I just blew it up, obviously, and I tried sketching Chloe's face, but again, on that same other thing, I had already done a reference study from this photo, so I just copied and pasted it because it was easier. And I changed it up a little bit. Her face is a little long here. I do eventually shorten that up, and you can see here I'm starting to put in all of the details of her clothes. This was a really hard angle to get. As you can see, I based it more off of the reference of the other models rather than Max's face. I think it still looks a bit like her, but it's, I don't know, it's a weird angle, so, and that face does end up changing a lot. That kind of profile and up angle is just a nightmare. I still don't really understand. And here you can see I start sketching in the background. Just a very, simple... I feel like I messed up on the beach because it should probably be more like a rocky beach, but I ran out of time, so I'm just like, you know what, it's just like a sand beach. We'll keep it like that, because that's simpler to render. I also had a lot of problems with the hands. I want to do some more hand studies, and here's me trying out a bunch of different ink brushes. I think I started out with chalk, and then I ended up switching to something from the Jing brushes set. I really hate how the line out turned out until the very last step. I probably won't be using that brush in the future. It just doesn't have enough variation. And I think I really like ink stuff way too clean, and so I'm trying to get to that point where there are artists who sometimes they don't even do an ink layer because they just have their pencils, because and so I want to get to that point where my pencils are clean enough to be line art, but or my line art is sketchy enough where it could be a sketch, if that makes sense. Yeah, because it just feels very stiff, and I don't know, in this photo particularly, I feel the line art felt very Disney princess coloring book or something until the very end, which is not the vibe I was going for at all. Yeah, so in the end, I just need to get better at practicing line art, which I haven't done a ton of digital stuff, especially recently, so I'll get there eventually. It's just a matter of practice. Oh, also I should talk about the prompt. So this was kind of for Cringetober. I didn't do the whole thing, obviously. I just kind of rolled some random prompts, and I didn't really like most of the ones that I got in a group together, so I just picked at random at that point. So I went with rare pair and alternative fashion and video games, I guess, because I know Five Nights at Freddy was listed as an example, but I feel like Life is Strange is definitely kind of on the cringe list, with the "go fuck your selfie" most iconic line in the history of video games. But yeah, so and I know I don't know if they're really considered a rare pair, but I feel kind of all F/F is rare pair by default because of how obsessed fandom is either with white M/M or straight couples. So yeah, anyways, you see here I was having a lot of problems with the hands, so I tried redlining. At some point there is just some straight up tracing. I did try to do more just basic getting the proportions traced out, and then actually changing up the hands And I had to do that a bit because, like, obviously the rest of the drawing wasn't like an exact copy. And now I'm looking at that arm and it really is short. Do I change that? The forearm? Because that makes like no sense. Okay, whatever. And so this is another brush from the Jing brushes set that I changed the settings of to be more in line with Rin Spirit Art's settings. I'll link their video in the description so you know exactly what to do. And I really do like this brush a lot. I don't use it exactly the same way they do, but it's able to get like hard and soft edges in a way that I like. And I think that makes it really, you know, versatile, which is nice. I don't even ink this background at all, which is unusual for me. Usually I would do that, but I think it ended up looking pretty good, even without line art. Yeah, and I like the kind of texture of the brush because I feel like either brushes tend to be like too smooth or too textured digitally. And the textured stuff, I sometimes I'm okay with if I'm doing just like a straight digital painting, but when it's a bit more like flat oriented, like comic style with, you know, line art, I do prefer having something smoother and then building the texture on my own. And I think this works out really well, especially like those clouds. I feel like turn out really well. I've never like painted clouds that come out that good. Though I do forget to draw the top of the lighthouse until like the very last part, so sorry about that. That might bother you for a bit. And so I didn't do a traditional flatting method like I normally would. This time I did it more like how Rin Spirit Art does it, where it's more painterly, and I do have separate layers, but it's like the background layer is one layer, Chloe's one layer, and Max's one layer. But the actual like rendering is done on the same layer, which isn't something I typically do. I tend to do more of like flats and then rendering on top of that, like you would in a comic. But I ended up really liking this. It's not something I'm always going to do because obviously there are a lot of benefits to having flats, but it's definitely for like when I'm just doing stuff in Procreate. I think it works out well because Procreate also is kind of terrible for flatting, as I mentioned last time. So yeah, I think for doing like illustrations on the iPad, this is a really nice way to do that. And I spent a long time rendering these jeans. I definitely need to do more like fabric studies too, because so much of my like drawing people has been nude figure drawing, so I just don't know anything about fashion or clothes or anything. For the most part, I color picked from a screenshot which you've seen from the game, but I did have to adjust some things here and there, and then there was stuff like the Converse that like weren't visible at all. I made them a bit too like neutral here so they stand out too much. I do end up changing that and making it a bit more orange so it fits in better. And I think that's part of the reason why I hated the line art so much too. So I ended up doing color holds, and that just really made everything harmonize a lot better, and why I prefer the line art at like the very end. I just think right now with the black, it stands out too much because the colors are so warm in the piece. It ends up looking cool by contrast, the same way that the shoes look too cool. I also end up redoing the lighting on Max's face. I'm still not super happy with it, but I think it definitely looks better. I ended up color picking from what I did on Chloe's face, and it looks a lot better. I'm still, like, I prefer how the shading came out in the background than on the figures. Except for, like, Chloe's face, I think turned out pretty good. The texture on Chloe's boots is, like, a nightmare, though. I'm still trying to figure that out, and I think also I just have much sharper contrast here than in, oh, and there's me adjusting the boots to make them harmonize better. But I just think it either came out like super cell shaded, which I preferred, or you know, I kind of over smoothed stuff out, which I didn't like as much. But here you go, you can see me finally doing the color folds, and things are really coming together a lot more. Though I think I still made Max's shoes way too neutral of a black, and they should really, I should have just color picked from Chloe's jacket, because I think that's actually black in the game, but oh well. And then here's me realizing I completely forgot to give Chloe upper legs and a lower torso. I hope you enjoyed that. Sorry about such a long gap in uploads. I actually recorded this at the end of October, but then my life got really crazy, and I didn't have, I had time for art, but not for making videos, and was away from my computer for a lot. There was like 2 days where I was free, and then I finally got around to playing Baldur's Gate 3, and yeah, that was my playtime after 3 days. So I'm taking a break from that now, and in the future, maybe posting a video related to that, so look forward to that. But I do have another speed paint that I've already completed the piece of. If you follow me on Instagram or Tumblr, you have seen it already. But I'll be recording that, and probably not this weekend because I'm moving this weekend. And I don't know after that because I have finals, and then I'm moving, and then like a week later I'm moving my desktop to my parents because I'm staying there for winter break for a month. So things are gonna get crazy, but I'm hoping to be able to record quite a few videos while I am on winter break. So I look forward to seeing you. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Bye.